Tom starts off today's game with a forest and the Ozolith. Next is Extra with the now standard Mountain, Soul Ring, into Felwar Stone. Sam then simply plays a spectator seating, while John plays a forest and ramps with Alana War Elves. Tom begins the second turn with a woodland cemetery and nature's lore, finding a tapped underground mortuary, surveilling a card to the graveyard. He then passes the turn and Extra casts Spikefield Hazard on John's elf before going to his turn. Extra plays a swamp, then casts a turn 2 Judith, Carnage Connoisseur, which is met with a Path to Exile from Sam, setting him back a tiny bit. Sam plays a Plains, then casts Starfield Mystic before passing. John plays a Brushland, and Forest seeks for a tap Jetmir's Garden, then hands it back to Tom. Tom misses his land drop, but instead casts an Everflowing Chalice for X=1, followed by Cathedral Acolyte. He passes. Extra plays a Mountain for turn, followed by a recast Judith Carnage Connoisseur, before passing to Sam. Sam copies Extra's turn with a Mountain and his commander, 3 Dog Galaxy New DJ. He then attacks John with Mystic and passes. John plays a Clifftop Retreat and ramps again with a Nature's Lore to find the forest. He then casts Silver Partisan and passes the turn back to Tom. Tom plays a forest for turn. He then starts doubling his counters with Branching Evolution and casts Gyre Sage, giving it 2 counters with Acolyte. Extra first casts Sign in Blood, targeting himself, triggering Judith to make a 2/2 Devil. The spell then resolves, making Extra lose 2 and draw 2, followed by a Blight Step Pathway and a pass. Sam plays a Plains for turn, then casts Felidar Umbra on DJ. He then casts Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist, and passes the turn to John. John plays a forest and adds his own commander, Voja, Jaws of the Conclave. With that done, he passes, but not before Extra has the chance to cast Flare on Gyre Sage, paying for ward and triggering Judith to give it Death Touch and Lifelink. This then triggers Ozolith to gain 2 counters before going to Tom's turn. On Tom's upkeep, Flare triggers, letting Sam draw a card. In his main phase, Tom casts Arwen, Weaver of Hope, which is enhanced thanks to an Acolyte activation, giving it 2 counters, followed by an Ozolith trigger, giving it a further 4 counters. With all the counters distributed, he ends his turn, and on his end step, Extra casts Altar's Reap, sacrificing a devil to trigger said devil, dealing 2 damage to each opponent, and Judith making a replacement devil. Once Extra is tapped out, Tom casts Assassin's Trophy on Judith, sending her to the command zone a second time. Extra plays a Mountain for turn, and casts Arcane Signet, followed by Torwalkie the Younger. He then casts the Reel of Possibility, discarding a card and triggering Torwalkie to deal 2 damage to Starfield Mystic. Mystic then dies, Extra draws 2, and the turn is passed to Sam. Sam plays a Plains, and continues enchanting his commander, this time with a Commanding Presence. Once attached, he sends his commander at Extra, dealing 3 damage, and triggering Presence to make a Human Soldier. John plays another forest for turn, then casts Elvish Warmaster and Pyreheart Wolf. John then swings Voja at Sam, triggering its effect. This is when Extra steps in, casting in a Braid on Warmaster, and triggering Torwalkie on Silverfur. In the end, Voja only draws 2 cards, and deals the damage to Sam. With his turn partially thwarted, he passes it back to Tom. Tom first casts Champion of Lamphold, which enters with an additional 14 counters thanks to Arwen. This is not good enough, of course, so he adds 2 more with Acolyte, just for good measure. He then goes to combat, using Arwen to attack Extra, who is unable to block due to champion. In his second main, Tom casts Power Fist and passes. Extra starts his turn by casting his commander, Judith, recast Connoisseur. He then casts Ryle on Torwalkie, triggering Judith to make a devil and Torwalkie to kill Acolyte. Once that is done, he plays a mountain and gives the turn to Sam. Sam also plays a mountain for turn, followed by Katara's Call and Squire's Devotion, both enchanting DJ, while making a vampire with Devotion. With no good way to attack, he ends his turn. John plays an overgrown farmland for turn, and immediately goes to combat, sending his dear Voja at Sam, triggering his effect to draw 2. In his second main, he casts the cards he drew, that being Gyre Sage and Elvish Archdruid, before passing it back to Tom. Tom misses his land drop again, and casts Pip-Boy 3000, equipping it alongside Power Fist to Arwen. He then uses his pimped out Arwen to attack Extra, triggering Pip-Boy to give Arwen 2 more counters. Extra again takes the damage, which triggers Power Fist, giving Arwen 20 counters. In his end step, Extra casts Costly Plunder, sacrificing a devil to deal 3 with a death trigger, alongside Torwalkie dealing 2 to Archdruid, and Judith making another devil. Extra first casts Neonate's Rush on the champion, triggering Torwalkie on Gyre Sage, and Judith to give Rush Death Touch and Life. This then triggers Ozolith to gain 16 counters. Extra then follows up with a Magmatic Insight, discarding a land, making a devil, and dealing 2 to Arden. Next is Village Rites, sacrificing a devil, dealing 3 to each opponent, making another devil, and dealing 2 to the vampire. He then casts Demand Answers, discarding a card, once again making a devil, and dealing 2 to the soldier, followed by Zap on Arwen, triggering Judith to give it Death Touch and Lifelink, while Pyreheart is dealt 2 damage with Torwalkie, and is returned with a +1/+1 counter thanks to Undying. Ozolith then gains another 28 counters. Extra then plays a mountain for turn, and attacks Tom with Torwalkie and Judith. He then wraps up his turn with Chaos Warp on DJ, making his last devil and taking out Pyreheart. With Warp resolving, Sam puts the revealed Sage's Reverie on Torwalkie in order to draw a card. After all that carnage, the turn finally goes to Sam. Sam is only able to cast his commander, and sadly pass the turn. John plays a Battlefield Forge, and tries to get back at Extra, casting Masked Vandal and exiling his Soul Ring. That sure showed him. He then attacks Tom with Voja, triggering his effect to give both his creatures a +1/+1 counter, and draw 2. In his second main, he casts Druid of the Anima, and passes it back to Tom. Tom's only play for the turn is sadly a Forest, and a pass. Extra plays a Sulphurous Springs for turn, he casts Professor Onyx, and activates her -3 effect to make each opponent sacrifice their creature with the highest power. He then casts Orcish Cannonade on Vandal, triggering Onyx to drain each opponent for 2, Judith to give Death Touch and Lifelink, and Torwalkie to target Anima. In response, John casts Inspiring Call to give Vandal Indestructible and draw a card. Extra also forgets that his spell still resolves, so he doesn't draw or gain any life. After that, he swings his entire army at Tom, who succumbs to the Imp Legion. With Tom dealt with, he passes to Sam. Sam's only play for the turn is a Boon of the Spirit Realm, giving itself a blessing counter once it enters, while John has a slightly better turn with a command tower for turn, followed by a recast of Voja, Jaws of the Conclave, and Howling Moon. He then passes it back to Extra. Extra first activates Onyx's +1 to add a card to his hand and lose 1 life. He then casts Harmonic Prodigy and initiates another all-out attack, this time at Sam. Sam takes the damage, and the turn goes back to him. Sam plays a Plains for turn, and with all the mana he has, casts third time DJ. He then passes the turn. John plays a Spectator Seating for turn, then casts Shalai and Har, followed by All Will Be One. He then goes to combat, triggering Howling Moon on Voja, and using him to attack extra, which triggers Voja, giving each creature 2 counters, and drawing 2. This then triggers Shalai to deal 6 damage to extra, and All Will Be One, dealing 2 to Onyx, and 4 to Torwalkie. In response to this, however, extra casts Malachor Rebirth on Torwalkie, triggering Judith to make 2 devils, Onyx to drain 2, and Torwalkie on Sam. Once these triggers resolve, Sam dies, and Malachor Rebirth returns Torwalkie. Extra then decides not to block, and the turn is passed. Extra again starts the turn with an Onyx activation, adding a card and losing 1 life. He then casts Pirate's Pillage, discarding a card and triggering Judith, Onyx, and Torwalkie at John's face. He then attacks Sam with the Devil Legion, which is blocked by Shalai, Voja, and Vandal. This triggers the Devils, dealing a further 9 damage to John, before letting him have his final turn. John first casts Rhythm of the Wild, followed by Marwyn the Nurturer, who gets haste due to Rhythm. He then goes to combat, triggering the Moon on Voja, followed by an attack with all his creatures at extra, triggering Voja to give each creature 3 counters and draw 2. This then triggers Shalai to deal 12 to extra, and All Will Be One, dealing 3 to Torwalkie, 3 to Onyx, 3 to Prodigy, and the final 3 to extra. Extra then blocks Marwyn and Vandal with 2 devils, while Judith blocks Voja. The damage is dealt, and both devils trigger to deal 4 damage to John. In his second main, he casts Bloom Tender and passes the turn to his demise. Extra then simply attacks with all 4 devils, and due to their death triggers, John ends up dying, making Extra the victor.